Hello everyone and welcome to Nine Nails Garage. Today we are going to be doing a little maintenance to the 2006 Dodge Viper Coupe. We're going to be changing every single fluid in the car. We bought this car used with 36,000 miles on it and there's no telling what's been done to it in the past. So today we're going to go ahead and change every single fluid, and we're also going to change the spark plugs and valve cover gaskets just to do some basic maintenance to the car and to get a good baseline of the quality of fluids that are in the car. So I ordered most of the things we needed on Amazon to change all the fluids, but there's just a few things that are more cost effective to go to the dealership and Walmart for the oil to go get. So we're gonna go ahead, take the Viper for a spin, and grab the rest of the fluids we need right now. The transmission in this car actually does shift pretty smooth for what it is. Most people complain about the T56 on all the forums and everything. I love how firm it shifts. You can tell it's in gear, and you get that positive reinforcement. Yeah, it doesn't shift like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, but this isn't a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic. So I really have no complaints with the transmission, but I'm going to change out the fluid in it just to see if we can get it to shift maybe just a little bit smoother. Alright, so we are back from the Dodge dealership, and we actually just had to pick up some coolant there, and we got our gear oil. But as you can see, we got a lot more stuff here. We've got the gear oil and the limited slip additive for the rear differential. We've got ATF plus 4, 1 gallon of it for the transmission. We've got Mobil 1 0W40 for the engine. I believe it takes about 11 quarts. So we have a 12 gallon or a 12 quart jug here with the SRT oil filter there. We also have Bosch double iridium spark plugs, 10 of those, 4 gallons of coolant, and this is the orange coolant. We also have a Gates OEM temperature thermostat. I believe it's 175, it could be 180, I forget exactly what it is. We also have a Gates new belt here for the drive. And we have Fel-Pro gaskets for our valve covers because they are leaking a little bit. But we're going to go ahead, get this thing in the air. I think we're going to start with engine oil, then we're going to work our way back to the transmission fluid, the differential, and then we're going to tackle all the rest of the engine stuff, including the valve cover gaskets, the thermostat, the belt, and the coolant. So let's go ahead, get this thing in the air, and get started. As you can see, it wasn't the easiest of all processes, but we got it done. We're going to go ahead and drain the oil. The socket size for the oil drain plug is a 13 millimeter on the driver's side of the engine. So while we're waiting for the oil to finish draining, we're going to go ahead and remove that center skid plate so we can get to both our differential and our transmission. The size bit needed is a T40 Torx bit. The drain plug for the transmission is on the far back passenger side of the transmission, and you need a 3/8 drive socket wrench to get it off. The rear differential is a 3/8 Allen wrench. The oil fill is on the passenger side of the vehicle and is also a 3/8 inch Allen. And the rear diff oil. Went ahead, we put the new oil in the rear diff. We didn't get the transmission oil in or the engine oil. We ran into some issues. I got the wrong oil filter. I think that the one that I got is, I think, for the 8.4 liter. Now, I think I'm gonna go ahead, get started on these valve cover gaskets, see if we get those knocked out, get that belt replaced, and also we can do the coolant. So, I believe that's our thermostat housing right there. And the belt should be pretty straightforward to get off of there. We just gotta remove this piece here, and yeah, it should be pretty easy. We could also get spark plugs too. So, as you can see the oil leak right there from the valve covers. That's why we're replacing that gasket. I guess it's pretty common on these things. I could try to retorque them and see if that fixes it. I guess a lot of guys say that that usually works, but I figure while I'm in here, I might as well just throw a new gasket on there. This is a 14-year-old car, so it wouldn't be uncommon to have bad gaskets, especially if it's been sitting for a while. So something I did notice before I even tried to pull this off of here, not sure if you can see it, but that bottom stud right there is actually loose. So that would explain that oil leak right there. So we got the valve cover all off there, got everything all nice and cleaned up. It's always better to go with a new gasket rather than reuse the old one, especially if fluids have already been leaking by it, whatever it is, oil, gasoline, you know, you name it. Always good practice to replace gaskets whenever you can. button up and all put back together. We got our spark plugs in, we got them torqued, we got the wires organized, and we got the valve covers on with the new gaskets. So everything came out pretty good, pretty happy with it. Like I said, everything is snugged up and looking good. Got the valve covers waxed. I am loving the way everything's looking, everything's coming together. We did break plastic clip, one on each side, the spark plug wire organizers. So we do have to get 2 new of those, and that's no big deal. It happens. But other than that, everything went very well. On both valve covers, on both sides, most of the bolts were loose on the bottom. So I think there was only like one on each side that was actually tight, and it was more towards the center, which is kind of weird, letting things loosen up. They are torqued to 95 inch-pounds, so I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I mean, the old gaskets over here, they are kind of hard and just kind of, you know, plasticky. They're barely even rubbery. So, who knows, kind of weird. I guess it's a common problem with the Viper, but really happy with everything. It is getting late out here, so I'm gonna go ahead and catch you guys in the morning. So it is the next day, and we did just get back from the parts store. We couldn't find the Mobil SRT filter, which I'm kind of disappointed because I would rather have the SRT filter. It's closest one is like an hour and a half away at a Dodge dealership. So we are just gonna go ahead and put a K&N in it for now. I think that's the best alternative. I would rather have the SRT filter, but we're just gonna run that for now, and then the next oil change we'll put an SRT filter on it, if not sooner. So now we're gonna go ahead and put the oil filter on the engine, put the oil in the engine, and we're gonna throw the transmission fluid in, and then we'll get the coolant drained and get that flushed and get the new coolant put in. So our transmission fill is right here on the driver's side of the engine, and it's a 3/8 inch ratchet. This is why it was a good idea to replace the belt on this car. It is, let's see, 14 years old, and it's not really miles that takes its toll on a vehicle, but more so just age. And rubber wears out, you know, it's got a shelf life. So, as you can see all the cracks in there, we made a good decision to go ahead and replace it. It's gonna make the car more reliable, and it's gonna make it last long. So, while I'm in here, I'm gonna check all the bearings on all the accessories. So far, so good. Checking for movement, either direction. And unusual noises, and everything seems to be in pretty good shape. Now, while I'm in here, I'm gonna wipe everything down with some Simple Green and just kind of clean everything up a little bit. is everything. We got the coolant topped off, we got the oil topped off, we got all the fluids changed, and everything's put back together. I left the cap off the coolant there, so we're gonna go ahead and start it up and see if we can bleed any more air out of that. So we added about 3 3/4 gallons of coolant to the engine. Being that the capacity is 4 gallons, it looks like we got most everything out of there, which is good. I did go ahead and pull the frost plug that is down on the, well, I pulled the one off the passenger side. I didn't get the one off the driver's side because the starter's in the way, but it looks like we got most of the coolant out of there. Like I said, put 3 3/4 gallons in it. We also went ahead and cleaned the throttle body while we were in there. It was pretty dirty, so glad we did that. Got it all wiped out, and it's good and clean. So now we're gonna go ahead and start it up. Alright, so there you have it. First start since we did our tune-up, and everything seems to run awesome. It seems to idle a lot better than it did. I'm sure cleaning the throttle body and also doing the spark plugs probably helped with that. So everything is running good and running smooth. Looks like there wasn't a whole lot of coolant that had to be burped out of there, but time will tell. We'll let it cool off, and we'll see if the level goes down at all. But everything else seems to be in good shape. No other leaks or anything, so I'm extremely happy. We're gonna bring it out front and we're gonna finish washing this engine bay and get it all cleaned up, get all the oil off of there and everything that was leaking down from the valve covers. Stay tuned for our next video. We are gonna be working on the interior. We got new seats here, so we are gonna be putting those in, and we're gonna be cleaning up the inside and going over a few other things in here. Also, shifter boots we're gonna do, parking brake boot, and the boot that's underneath this console here. I believe mine is torn. You can feel heat coming in through the shifter here, and that's no good. I believe that there's a boot underneath there. That's what keeps the heat from coming in from the exhaust and getting in the interior here. So we are going to be doing that in a future video. Also ahead in our other videos, we are going to be cleaning up and detailing the suspension and underbody. There's a reason I didn't put that pan back on there, because we're gonna be cleaning that up, getting all the oil off there. Also from the front air dam, cleaning everything up and putting everything back on, as well as detailing the suspension and our inner fender wells there, along with the engine bay. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.